this was my first time watching The Martian, and I immediately placed it in my top 10 greatest movies of all time.
Surprise!
With the messaging of human resilience and hope in the face of impossible challenges, I was reminded of similar messaging as Castaway and also of my own life experiences.
I'm not gonna die here.
Andy Weir, the author of The Martian, had a strong foundation of orbital dynamics, physics, and programming, but admitted that he did a lot of Googling for his very accurate information on aerospace. And that's one of the main things that made this movie so entertaining, was how plausible every detail was, because nothing was left unexplained.
If I run the hydrazine over an iridium catalyst, it'll separate into N2 and H2.
It satisfied the space nerd in all of us and the philosopher in most of us. Mark Watney, played by Matt Damon, is one of 6 astronauts sent on the Ares 3 mission to Mars. When a storm hits, the crew has to abandon the planet, believing that Watney was hit and killed by debris. Watney wakes up and realizes that he is cosmically and quintessentially up the creek without a paddle.
Oxygen level critical.
But his brain power turned out to be his superpower. You'll notice after Watney wakes up from his accident, he immediately must remove a thorn from his side. Maybe that was not intentional messaging, maybe it was. But that is a very true parable to how we can begin to move our lives forward. A thorn in your side could be an addiction or an unhealthy relationship. You will need to do the painful act of locating, identifying, and removing the thorn. I personally especially loved all the moments where he strategized on how to close the gap from his present moment and the moment he would need to get to.
Our service mission here was supposed to last 31 souls. For redundancy, they sent 68 souls worth of food. That's for 6 people.
Can you think of times in your life where the math didn't add up and you knew there was no way you were going to make it, but somehow you figured out a way?
So for just me, that's going to last 300 souls, which I figure I can stretch to 400 if I ration. So I got to figure out a way to grow 3 years worth of food here.
Watney is immediately faced with a problem that very few people could solve, but he never allows the circumstances to steal his spirit. He remains hopeful, creative, and lighthearted even when facing sudden death. If you allow your problems and circumstances to break your spirit, you lose. Your hope is the only thing you possess that will give you the ability to believe in yourself and bet on yourself. And we sometimes face situations that only we can pull ourselves out of. One of the more profound subtle messages is the parable of the poop. Poop is necessary for his potatoes to grow, for life to grow. The law of harvest is always in effect. The amazing thing about that, though, and about your life, is resilience. There are some beautiful things that can come from the poopiest of situations. Poopy circumstances are sometimes the only thing that can create a specific type of growth, specific life lessons. Poop is fertile soil. It still contains life-giving nutrients. And in this case, it's his path to potatoes. Think about that. The thesis of this movie is plainly stated at the very end of the movie, after Watney has successfully returned to Earth and gives a quick lecture about the very real process we humans must take in order to solve seemingly impossible problems.
At some point, everything's going to go south on you. Everything's going to go south, and you're going to say, this is it. This is how I end. Now, you can either accept that, or you can get to work. That's all it is. You just begin. You do the math. You solve one problem, then you solve the next one, and then the next. And if you solve enough problems, you get to come home.
You are the product of your actions. It's called the law of harvest, and it's probably no accident that Matt Damon's character was a botanist.
I'm a botanist.
You reap what you sow. To quote Brianna Wiest, a farm is a natural system governed by principles. So are you. The law of harvest is always in effect. If you make a series of bad choices for a period of time, you will naturally harvest a bad produce. If you make a series of good choices, you will naturally yield a good harvest. You might find yourself at rock bottom today where you feel like you cannot go on, where you cannot find the strength to take your one first step into the direction you know you're supposed to go. The true test of resilience is whether or not you do the actions regardless of the circumstances and feelings. Like Watney says, you can either accept that or you can get to work. You just begin. And if you take 1 millimeter step forward today and a couple more tomorrow and so on, eventually you will restore your hope and your joy will return and you'll begin to feel like yourself again. And then you get to come home, and your true home is internal peace. Your greatest ally through difficult times is your hope.
I think it's the lack of hope that comes and gets you. See, I believe in hope.
And if I could say something to my kids, when life feels impossible, remember Mark Watney. He woke up alone on Mars with no help coming, but he didn't quit. He stayed hopeful, solved one problem at a time, and believed that every small step would eventually lead him home. Life will give you moments where the math doesn't add up, where you feel stuck or overwhelmed, or where you can't see a way forward. You might even lose hope for a while. That happens to everyone. What matters is whether you take that next tiny step anyway. That's resilience. That's how you find your way back to yourself. You're never defined by the hard moments. You're defined by what you choose to do in them. If you make good choices, you plant good seeds. And those seeds always grow into something strong. And if you ever feel like you can't take a step, I will hope for you until you feel like you can hope again. Solve the next problem in front of you. Keep going. One step, one choice. One moment at a time. Keep going. That's how you come home. Thanks again for watching. If this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, share, comment any movies you want me to give my take on. And thank you for joining me. It means a lot, and I love you all.